In our last episode, we covered the downsides of owning a flagship phone, but there are some pros as well. Let's talk about the pros of owning a flagship phone coming up right now. Let's go. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to the pros of buying a flagship phone. Now, the first one is the strong performance and the CPU. This usually keeps things running fast throughout the duration of its usage. Now right here I have the beta of iOS 13, so you just seen a little bit of delay there, but when on the official version, for example, very fast performance. And yes, mid-rangers are catching up for your day-to-day tasks and things like that, but when it comes to gaming, when it comes to just keeping this phone fast over the long haul, I think flagship phones still have the advantage in performance, stronger CPUs, more RAM, things like that. Although, like I say, these mid-rangers are starting to catch up in this area, the flagship phones still have the stronger CPUs. So when it comes to just strong performance, this is where you get your money's worth. And I think if you're the type of person who's going to maybe just use your phone more than your tablet, you're definitely gonna like a flagship phone. My second point is quality feel for years. So here's an iPhone 10. Now I'm using this because this was $1,000 phone, but it's a couple years old, and you can see that the design, the feel in the hand is still high quality for the iPhone 10, and it doesn't look really dated, and that's mostly due to the fact that the 10s and the 10R look almost identical. And if rumors are true, the next iPhone 11 is also going to look pretty identical to the iPhone 10. So having a quality feel for years is something you get with these flagship phones. Now the Galaxy S10 is the latest Samsung flagship, but at the same time, the Galaxy S9, even the S8 does not feel cheap whatsoever. It still feels quality even though that phone's a couple years old. So I think buying a flagship ensures you that you get a quality feel in your phone's hardware for at least a few years, which is a nice thing to have when you are paying this kind of money for a phone. So you got that quality feel in your hands for a few years. Now the design might change quite drastically, but at least the phone will feel premium in your hand for a few years. Next up is the screens are the best you're going to get on a mobile device. Now the Samsung Galaxy S10 has some of the highest pixels per inch on any smartphone on the market. Now if we hit display, you can see you can change these modes between vivid and natural. Now you can do this on some mid-rangers and cheaper phones as well, but what you typically don't get is the WQHD resolution. Now you could argue, and there is an argument, that I can't see anything past 1080. I can definitely see the difference between 1080 and 1440p, especially when reading text. Not so much in videos, but if you do want to stream a higher quality video, you can do that on something like the Galaxy S10 or even the iPhone 10 over here, iPhone 10s. You can do even HDR content a lot in Netflix and stuff like that on these flagship phones. So the screen quality itself is typically the highest you're going to get on a phone for a flagship phone, and definitely a reason to buy one of these devices. And one of the things I think is a pro of owning one of these is definitely the display doesn't disappoint and stands the test of time when it comes to its display quality. Next point is the experience always feels luxurious with these devices, and what I mean by that is the feel. These phones, every time you pick them up, you feel good that you got a phone like this. It feels like the best in your hand right here, the best technology has to offer. Now, does it always feel like you're getting your value, your money's worth out of the phone you purchase, like you're getting everything out of it? No, it doesn't always feel like that, but it always feels luxurious. It's kind of like the cars again. You know, you can get a car to get you point A to point B, but if you get a luxurious car, every time you sit in that car, you're going to be like, oh yeah, this is nice. And you just feel that every time. And, you know, say a cheap car versus a luxurious car. This is kind of how it feels with these phones these days as well. And is this a reason to buy it? That's really down to your own personal perspective. But for me, it's definitely a pro of owning a flagship phone. It just kind of feels good to use it day to day. It allows you a personal luxury that, you know, is pretty much within reach if you do set a goal out to purchase one, but doesn't mean you have to. You probably might not get your value. And if you don't feel like you will, then check out my downsides of owning a flagship phone. Link up in a card. Number 5, you badly need a great camera on your phone. Now the Galaxy S10 is a great example of this, as is the iPhone series. Now you have triple cameras on here, so we can go telephoto, we can go wide angle, and the primary lens is very good with a variable aperture for good low light photography. In addition, you have many video features, and typically when you get a flagship phone, they stuff these cameras with the most video features you can get, the most camera features you can get on a phone. And that really does help you to really get a camera experience that is kind of unmatched on the mid-rangers. Now over here on the iPhone 10, you got a dual camera. And I'm not saying that mid-rangers don't have triple camera. Sometimes they do, but the quality is not there in comparison to the flagship phones typically, especially in the video department. Usually you'll get 1080p, you won't get the full 4K. Now, again, this will come down to how much you use these things, but this is a pro of owning. This is a real pro of owning a flagship phone, is that you know you have a stellar camera experience, a phone camera experience in your pocket. Now, I argued in my downsides that don't expect this to be a DSLR, and I still agree with that point. Don't expect these to be DSLRs, but the pro is that you do have the best camera phone experience you can get on these flagship phones. The next point is that the features are there. There's no corners cut with these devices. With the Galaxy S10, for example, you do get triple cameras, you get wireless, charging on here. You also get wireless charging on the 10 series phones, 10s, and you get fast charging, headphone jack, you get dual speakers. I mean, there's just nothing to cut here on these devices. They give you everything possible that, at least the manufacturer can do at that time or can innovate at that time. And that really is a good thing if you're buying one of these phones, because you don't want to feel like you're getting, less than you deserve for the money that you just paid, your hard-earned money on these devices. And so the iPhone 10 for Apple is going to be the OLED screen. You have, edge-to-edge panel here, Face ID. You get 3D touch on this phone. That's going away in the future phones. You get the best camera at the time. So wireless charging. You can do fast charging, you need an extra charger, unfortunately, but you can do it. 4K 60. So dual speakers. I'm just saying, like, the features are there. There's no corners cut on these premier smartphones. Water resistant ratings. Now the OnePlus series does cut some corners to get the price down. Not a lot of corners, but some. And true flagships don't really cut any of those corners right here. So definitely a reason to buy. Now, don't misconstrue that. I'm not saying that the OnePlus is not a flagship. It definitely is, but it cuts some corners that these $1,000 phones don't cut. Now, the next point is heavy usage and power users. You can be assured that you're gonna have great stability at all times on these phones, and that's something that I think that is invaluable on these smartphones right here. When you are gonna be pushing these to the max, they will keep up with you. Now, day-to-day tasks, like I say, mid-rangers will do the job. They'll do it very well, checking your Gmail, your YouTube, and if that's all you do, you might not need these. But if you're pushing it to the max, you're playing the most graphically intensive game, you don't want to buy one of those portable game systems. You want to do mobile gaming on your smartphone, or you're going to be doing multitasking, you're running your business. You got multiple things you got to run at once, and you need that performance rock solid all the time, and you need it snappy, you need it fast. You move fast in life. These phones will keep up with you. If you got a little more patience and you don't really care about load times and you don't care about the phone getting a little hotter than usual, a mid-ranger will still be fine for you. But that lag factor that will happen in, higher frame rate games, for example, could be the difference between losing a match and winning a match in some of those online live mobile games. So in this area, power users, heavy users definitely benefit from these $1,000 phones. Next reason, you only plan on using your phone for all your computing needs. And I'm talking about all of them. No tablet, no laptop. Definitely, I recommend getting a flagship phone. It's definitely a pro owning one of these when it's going to be your only computing device, because if you're not going to buy a laptop, you're not going to buy a tablet, why not get the best you can in your only computing device, and maybe a Galaxy phone, an iPhone, or even, one of the OnePlus 7 Pros, for example. Get the most you can get for your money if it's going to be your only computing device. It just makes sense in my personal opinion, and it's a pro because you're going to have a great display with high resolution. You're going to have good battery life. Usually, if you get the right phone, you're going to have, very fast performance like you would if you bought a PC and stuff like that. And you're just going to have something that lasts you a while. So this is one of the pros, is if you're going to only be using the phone, then get one of these guys. I think it's a pro of owning a flagship phone. And that's further enhanced if you get a Galaxy device, because it's compatible with Samsung DeX, which will allow you to put that phone up to a monitor and make this thing a basically a desktop computer. Well, at least with mobile apps anyway. You can use a mouse, you can use a keyboard, you can just plug the Samsung S10 right into a monitor. So I definitely think it's more of a pro, even more so on the Galaxy side. Next up, you need water resistance in your phone. These premier smartphones usually have the higher, better water resistance than the cheaper devices out there. Some cheaper devices don't even give you that. Now, a lot of people are kind of trained not to put electronics near water. So again, this is an arguable, debatable point. But for me, I'm not even a kid with you. I've actually took the phone out in the rain. I've took the phone in the shower, when I was texting somebody, I didn't want to stop, my conversation. Yeah, I don't recommend taking it in the shower, but if you keep it kind of away from the water and it gets a little bit wet, it's no big deal. It's not going to freaking, get destroyed or anything like that. I've even dropped a waterproof phone in the toilet and it still survives. So these premier smartphones are definitely the way to go. If you know you're the type of person who's going to get this phone wet and you're really concerned about stuff like that, you got to go with one of these guys. You'll be very happy you did so. Next up, you're looking for the highest resale value or at least trade-in value. Now with iPhones, you typically get very high resale value if you try to sell it online after or right before you're going to buy your next iPhone. This iPhone 10, it's ridiculous. It's a couple years old already. You can still get $700 for this thing. And why can you do that? Because, well, the Apple logo has strong brand value. The A11 CPU is very fast in there. This phone's still updated, still looks like the latest iPhones. You can get quite a bit of money still for that phone. Now S10, this one drops a little faster and depreciates quicker, which does sting. But at least when you go to trade in on a Samsung phone, Samsung should give you a pretty respectable trade-in value, at least so you can get your next phone if you would like. So if you care about doing things like that, selling your phone, trading it in for a new phone, these are going to net you the most money you can get out of a device. And that's definitely a pro of owning one of these, because if you try to sell a mid-ranger after a year or two, nobody's probably going to give you much for that device. So in conclusion, like I said, we covered the downsides of owning a flagship phone in the prior video, and here were the pros. And I think if you resonated with a lot of the pros in this video, then a flagship phone will likely please you as an owner of it. If you didn't, then if you were really like, what is he talking about? These points make no sense. I'm not paying that for a phone. Then you're probably more likely a person who's better suited for a mid-ranger phone and not a flagship phone. But there are people that are better suited for these type of devices, even though they're going to cost them more. So what I want to know is, what are your pros of owning a flagship phone? Because I know many of you in the crowd do own these premier phones, or some of you do anyway, and share your thoughts on those down below to help other people decide, is it something that they want to get? This community has been awesome. You guys are great, and you really help other people out who are just reading through to help them decide if they're going to buy something. So make sure you share your take on it down below as well. Thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Nick here, helping you to master your technology. I will catch you all in the next episode. Be sure to be well. Have a great Sunday, and peace.